Let's get ready to story!
This is my first time, and I'm the first guy. I'm a novice, so be nice. I have spoken before, but usually they're 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds in diapers. So just pardon me while I think of these diapers. I also said I was going to start with a song because that's my comfort. About writing on the wall, we're talking about skateboarding. My beginnings start on Long Island, and when you hear me speak, you're going to hear a little bit of that Long Island accent. I didn't lose it totally. I am who I am because of where I've come from, what I've experienced, and the people who I've been around and who have influenced me. But my biggest influence has always been the ocean and the beach. It's where I go when I'm sad, it's where I go when I'm happy, it's where I go to receive nourishment, replenishment, and to get my health and sanity back. Years ago, we would go to the beach every day. My mother would pack up, when we were very young, she would pack up the red Volkswagen bus. She'd pack the 6 kids in. She'd pack the lunch of bologna and ketchup sandwiches, which by the time it was time for lunch was really swished, but you know, we were a big Irish Catholic family of 6, so that's what we could do. Then we would also pack for our snack, the same thing every time. Apples, grapes, and Cheez-Its. And here it is, 50 years later, and when we go on trips, it's still apples, grapes, and Cheez-Its. We would go to the beach, and we would leave at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we would get home at 5. And the day was spent wandering the dunes. And that was in the day when you didn't worry about where your children were, or who they might meet. We wandered the dunes, we swam all day, and we knew when it was time to go home. And we always knew where the blanket was. When we were hitting about middle school age, we were getting bored going to the beach, if you can imagine that. But we would go every day. So as we reached that age where we really didn't feel like going anymore, my mother had a brilliant idea, or as Haley Mills said in The Trouble with Angels, a scathingly brilliant idea. She surprised us one day with a 9-foot, 8-inch fiberglass surfboard. And I'm thinking, you know, here she was, 5'1", a little school teacher from Amityville, and she's coming home with this huge surfboard. Well, we were in heaven, because that was at a time in the 60s and 70s when we were growing up in a very turbulent time. We had the Vietnam War. We had the Cuban Missile Crisis, where I remember hiding under my desk for the drills that we found out now would have not done anything. Tuck and roll. So we were in that kind of a crisis. Now, I didn't know. I knew all that was going on at the time, but I didn't realize how it was going to impact us later on. Our life revolved around the beach. So when we got this surfboard, it was pretty cool, but then the fights ensued. Who's going to go first? How long can we use it? And we all worked that out because, quite frankly, I wasn't the best surfer, so I was on and up in no time. But we would still pack the red Volkswagen bus. We had 2 during my childhood. And my father kicks himself every day for selling that last one. Every time he sees one go, I shouldn't have sold it, I shouldn't have sold it. I wish I still had it. So we would pack up the car again, this time instead of beach toys, instead of fishing nets. We were packing it with the surfboard on the roof rack. We were packing it with 6 kids, sometimes 8, sometimes 9, as many as we could fit in. But we still packed. Now we've upgraded. We're no longer bologna and ketchup sandwiches. We are now peanut butter and jelly on white bread. So we had our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but we also had our apples, grapes, and Cheez-Its. And after a while, the grapes would get very crunchy with the sand. When we finished our, do you all know that feeling?
Fiber.
Yeah, fiber. So we would all surf, and we would hang out for the day. When we got tired of eating, we would throw the Cheez-Its up in the air as high as we could, and the seagulls would come flying in. We used to call them rats with wings, and we still call them that. Whenever I go to the beach, I start throwing Cheez-Its up in the air. And 9 times out of 10, before you know it, you've got a flock of seagulls. And all the other beachgoers are condemning you because now you've got all these seagulls attacking your lunches. There was one day, my wonderful, illustrious surfing career came to an abrupt end. You know never to hold the surfboard like this, parallel to the waves coming in. And I was really just kind of surfing because there were a lot of cute guys at the time. And they all look cute in their little surf shorts and, you know, their t-shirts, and they had the leashes wrapped around their ankles. So I was just trying to go with the flow. So I would paddle my board out for a little ways, not far enough that I could get swamped, but just far enough that I could ride a wave in on my belly. And that was fine for me. A couple of times I did stand up, and I figured the board, and I was about 60 pounds lighter then, so, you know, don't think this is the shape I was in then. But I would stand on the board, and it was so big, it was almost impossible to lose your balance with it. So I would ride that in. But this particular time, I was standing in the waves, in the shoreline. The water was only up to my hips. And I was just watching, looking for that perfect wave, which to me would only be about that high, because I wasn't adventurous that way. And I'm standing in the waves, with the board in front of me like this. And as I'm standing there, like just really kind of looking at the cute guys, catching the waves next to me, I see this big wave coming at me. And before I had a chance, I'm thinking, oh shit. And I didn't have a chance to move the board facing the right way. The board is lifted up by that wave, comes up and smashes me in the face. Yeah, poor me. Not poor me. I grabbed the board, I was stunned, I ran up, dragged it up the beach, ran to my mother with the blanket, and I said, Mom, I just got hit by the surfboard, I think I have a broken nose. And she looks at me, she looks at my nose, and she goes, you're fine. I said, what? And I'm thinking, Mom, I think I have a broken nose. You're fine. And I was thinking, I should get at least an emergency room visit out of this, or at least a nice cold pack. No, you're fine. The rule in our house is no blood, no vomit, no broken bones, no fever, no problem. We're going to school. So, to this day, I have that policy with my children. Fast forward to this past year. Long Island has been devastated so many times by these massive hurricanes. I've lived through Hugo, I've lived through Irene. I even had a Hurricane Gloria baby. I mean, imagine my surprise being in the hospital in the hallway with all these other women giving birth. And I said, what's going on here? And the woman says, Hurricane Gloria. And I said, no. I said, he was conceived before Hurricane Gloria. And she said, no, we're counting 2 weeks before Hurricane Gloria and 2 weeks after. So Hurricane Gloria produced another child. However, last year's Hurricane Sandy was really, really devastating. This past summer, I went back and visited my dad, who's now 83 years old. He had 3.5 feet of water in his basement. Luckily, he had a house built in 1926, and it was so high up, the only damage he had was in the basement. But he needed a new oil burner, he had no electricity, no heat for about 3 weeks. We went to the beach, and he took us to the beach where we used to surf, Gilgo Beach. Now that was also very badly destroyed. And what they do is there's an underpass going from the bay side over to the ocean side. When the storms are coming, especially the hurricanes, they'll bulldoze sand into that tunnel so that the ocean doesn't breach and cause a permanent inlet from the ocean to the bayside. So when we got to Gilgo Beach, everything was perfect. We were walking through the tunnel, and as I'm walking through the tunnel, I'm hearing the waves, I'm hearing the sounds of the kids, I'm hearing the seagulls, I'm smelling the greasy fried fish, I'm smelling the suntan oil, and I'm smelling low tide, and I think, I'm home. As we start going through the tunnel, I had my 2 daughters with me, and my dad was with me. And the tunnel we always loved to go through because we would scream at the top of our lungs just so we could hear the echoes. Now here it is, 40 years later, and what am I doing? I'm screaming at the top of my lungs in the tunnel, and I have my girls doing the same thing, just to hear what it sounded like. But of course, as soon as people started coming in, they left. My final thing is, you're talking about the writing on the wall, I'm talking about the pictures on the wall. Since the last time I had been there, wonderful graffiti artists had come in and made 20 by 20 panels. As I'm going through, I'm looking at mermaids, I'm looking at surfer dudes and surfer dudettes, I'm looking at whales, I'm looking at fish. In the middle of the hall, in the middle of the tunnel, there was this one phenomenal picture, and I got shivers and chills. And I looked at it, and my girl said, Mom, what's the matter, what's the matter? And I just pointed, and I said, look. And there it was, a huge sun with yellow and red rays radiating from it. This is where I get all clumped, excuse me. And in the center of that sun was a red Volkswagen bus. And I felt I had come home and it was full cycle and I still eat grapes, apples, and Cheez-Its. Thank you very much.